I know everybody in Israel is listening in so closely to this, Robert, and I know one of the things you picked up on then, because during the announcement was that, you know, throughout the entirety of the war, Netanyahu has been saying something to the effect of, you know, we have to eliminate Hamas. That was basically the objective, right? But then today he said he's achieved his objectives and he signed on to it.
Absolutely right, Connell. We have heard this from the Prime Minister pretty much since the beginning of the war here, that the war will continue on until Israel attains its key objectives. One of them is bringing the hostages home. The other is the dismantling and the destruction of Hamas to the point that they'll never be able to threaten Israel again. The fact that you heard the Prime Minister saying there that this deal achieves their war objectives, it means point blank that the Israelis believe that this deal is satisfactory to them in order to end the war outright. It's a highly significant statement. Kelly pointed out the other highly significant statement made, though, which is the ball is now entirely in Hamas's court, from what you heard from President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu, because if Hamas does not agree to this deal, well, the Israelis have the full blessing of the White House to continue on and finish the job. That's what you heard there that was so important. When you look at the certain elements of this deal here, Connell, there's a couple of key ones that you have here. On the one hand, you have the return of all hostages. That is such a key element here in Israeli society, bringing the hostages home. There is such a fervor on the ground here to get a deal done that brings the living and the dead home. Then you also have the element of the temporary government that would be established here in Gaza. That's an important element in which you'll see that the Israelis will not be annexing Gaza. The United States will play an overseeing role in the so-called Board of Peace. Tony Blair, who had a previous middle envoy role with the quartet, will be heavily involved in this as well. So it's an all-encompassing plan here. And then to button it up, the big element, brokering these conversations between the Israelis and Palestinians to talk about a brighter future in the region. This is the cornerstone of the president's Middle East objective, is broadening peace here in the region, to have a day in which Israel's neighbors, Syria, which shares a border, opens diplomatic relations. Lebanon, which shares a border, opens diplomatic relations. That is the overarching goal. They believe it starts in Gaza, and they believe they have what they need to get a deal done. It comes down to a yay or a nay from the Hamas leadership.
One question I'd have, Robert, is do we know how this is playing or going to play on the right flank of Benjamin Netanyahu's governing coalition there in Israel, where you are? Was there talk ahead of time? Because a lot of this was leaked out ahead of time.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of that already, and you've seen some of the reaction coming down, and you pointed it out perfectly, is that the coalition here on Prime Minister's side, you know, there are some who are disgruntled by this whole process here. One element of all of this is the apology to the Qataris that was given by the Israeli Prime Minister today. Some within the Prime Minister's coalition are very upset about that, as they're very distrusting of Qatar in general. The other element are the security guarantees at large, in which some believe that this needs to be stronger and that they need to ensure that there can be no more threats to Israel. So there are going to be some in Israel who are disgruntled here. As you know, we've been pointing out, there are multiple layers to all of this. There is the deal-making process when it comes to the negotiation of release of hostages for Palestinian prisoners, influx of aid, those details. And then there are political mechanisms here in Israel that need to be navigated as well. At this point, the Prime Minister has given this a green light here. And in terms of the political ramifications in Israel, that remains to be seen. But there are certainly some who are outspoken already.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.